Into the space this morning. Everyone is welcome. Looking forward to being with you this morning as you come into the room, family. I'm closing my eyes and I can see you right now, even though we're virtual. I'm imagining being with you right now, face to face, in person. And we're going to join in spirit. We're going to join in spirit in that consciousness right now. So come on in. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let me see who's coming in the room. Enlarge my screen so I can see that. Good morning, Audra. It is a beautiful day. Good morning, Audra. Let me see who else is coming in. Someone might have came in first. Listen, if you came in first, good morning to you. Good morning, Facebook user, whoever that is. It is a grand morning. Grand rising to you. What a way to start this Sunday. Good morning, Dr. Fabu. Happy belated birthday to you. Good morning, Fran. Good morning to you, my friend Fran. Man, it's my sister. We laugh so much. I see her name, I just start laughing. My friend Fran. All are welcome. Come on into the space this morning, whether you were watching through Facebook Live or YouTube or transforminglovecommunity.com. However you're coming in, come into the space this morning. Welcome to the space. Transforming Love Community. It's always a blessing to be with you all this morning. And every Sunday when I come in, it's such a blessing. Good morning, Armethea. Come on. For all of you, Erica says hello. She is right here. Erica says hello to everybody. Good morning to everybody. And gratitude, let me send some gratitude to Rev again, always. I don't miss an opportunity to do that. Just gratitude for her, big gratitude. More and more, I just embrace TLC and embrace these messages and embrace my calling and embrace the teachings of TLC. I just want to express that gratitude for Rev, for not only having the grand idea of TLC, the divine idea, but also just allowing us to come in here and do our thing, giving up this space for someone who she thinks can edify the community, can give a message to the community. And that's not a small thing, to trust your community, everybody. So I want to always give her thanks. Thank you for all those who still coming into the room. Dr. Fabu, I see you saying hi to Erica. All right, come on in. Let's join in spirit. Let's breathe a little bit as we come in. Let's settle ourselves down. We got our technology straight. We got everything working in good order. So now we breathe and just breathe into the space. We relax and come into the space. It is, fam, it is Scorpio season. You know, we're talking about going deep. Happy birthday to all my Scorpios in the house. Give a shout out if you're a Scorpio. Scorpio's a water sign. They always going deep. Happy birthday to all my Scorpios. Knowing that that's going in tomorrow, we're going to walk into the Sagittarius season in a few days. And so I want to take an opportunity to say happy birthday to all the Scorpios. I also want to hold space for all those who, whether you're in this space or not right now, all those who are experiencing grief, experience transition of a loved one. It can be pretty tough when you start approaching this holiday season, particularly if you had a loved one who transitioned and went to be with God, went to be with their ancestors recently, or this year, or even last year. Sometimes when you approach these holiday seasons, you can feel that emotion a little bit. I want to acknowledge that and hold space for those, and still send warm energy, healing energy, comforting energy to all those who have experienced that that lost recently. Let's as we come in and settle into the space, let's just join in spirit a little bit and affirm together. I want to bless all those that are in the space, wherever you are, whatever happened yesterday, whatever happened the day before, that we are in this space right now. And I just want to bless this right now moment for you. I want to bless your family. I want to bless everyone you touch. I want to bless everything that all your endeavors, um, and send them good energy. And I want to bless your journey. I want to bless your journey that brings you right here to this moment. I want to bless you for continuing and thank you for continuing to go deep with TLC and deep into this message and deep into inside yourself to recognize and embrace the God in you. So we thank you. We always ask God to supply us with the power to resist temptation, that we are not deceived by appearances. We're not deceived by appearances. We're not distracted by form, and we don't give ourselves into wayward thoughts. But we're embracing God and everything about God. We're embracing God's thoughts. We're embracing God's deeds. We're embracing God's highest ways and ideals, that we're always doing that. I want to affirm that right now. I want to affirm that whatever you're experiencing right now, that God is perfecting that, because there's only God. There is only God. So right now, together, we acknowledge that there is only God. There is only one God, the omnipotent, the omniscient, omnipresent. God is all powerful. God is everywhere present. God is all knowing. And all of our experiences, everyone on the earth, every living being on the earth, everyone on it and everyone in it belongs to God. Amen. I say, and so it is with this moment. I ask God to just work through me, empty me right now, so that the words I speak may be edifying in the presence of the Most High, and it may help someone who's here today and take someone a little bit higher. Amen. All right. I'm so glad you're here, TLC. November is the month of release. It is the month of elimination, renunciation. And when we talk about renunciation, when we talk about release, we're talking about the ability to let go, the ability to let go. So we're going to go deep, because sometimes we have to go deep. That is our theme for the month, TLC's theme. Also, we're going deeper. We're going deeper because you have to go deeper to let go of some things oftentimes. So our affirmation for this month is: I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. Repeat that to yourself. I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. One more time. I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. All right, TLC. As we release, we also fill ourselves up with the things of God. We fill ourselves up with God's teachings. We fill ourselves up with God's truth, and we have to release. And we have so many things that are going on at TLC, so many good things. And so let's prepare for our announcements. I got a few for you. Uh, and I also want you to stay until the end of the broadcast as well, because some of these announcements will come up again. Some of us might come in late. And so I want you to stay in and see some of these announcements. Listen, subscribe to the YouTube page of Reverend Shahira Stevens. Shahira Stevens has a YouTube page. And we want her to have as many followers as she can get, as many subscribers as she can get. So listen, go to your YouTube page, invite people to the YouTube page, subscribe right now. You see the address at the bottom, youtube.com/Shahira Stevens. And we want to help her build her channel, not just her channel, but her ministry. We're going to build her message, because her message is our message. Her channel is our channel. So we want to help build that. So take a moment and go to that page and subscribe. All right. And always share the messages with others. Amen. All right. Let's do that. So Mondays, listen, I have been soaking lately, and I am so busy during the week, but I am going to make time to go into and soak with our sister Reverend Danny Stillwell on Soak Mondays. We need to be soaked in spirit. You know, the way to go deeper and the way to ascend and the way to really embrace the truth of God is to soak in the spirit of God. And so there's nobody better to do that with than Reverend Danny Stillwell on Mondays. So come in on Mondays and take a little bit of time. Mondays at 12 noon, just a little bit of your time to soak in the spirit, so we can stay in the spirit. We can stay there. So Soak Mondays, join us every Monday at noon. You see the number, you see the passcode, and join us then every Monday. Soak Mondays with Danny Stillwell. We also have on Tuesdays, we're talking about going deeper, and we're talking about releasing. And the laws of spirit are what we're studying now on Tuesdays. And so we need to know these laws of spirit in order to release. We need to be aware of the laws. We need to have the laws work in us and release. And these laws of spirit, man, it is a wonderful class every Tuesday. And so if you want to, know about those laws, and these laws work in you, and we're studying from Dan Millman's book, The Law of Spirit, A Tale of Transformation. You could always go to the website to find all this information, www.transforminglove.com. Go to Rev's Facebook page, but you see the information right there. And I believe Donna sends out to friends and family of TLC, sends out messages anyway. So come on Tuesdays. And, after we soak, we get right into those laws of spirits on Tuesday. So we look forward to seeing you there. All right. Resting in God's presence. We've got a prayer shut in 2022. That's going to be on December 2nd, 2022. Resting in God's presence. So this is like a prayer, a lock in. And so if you see that, you see this, the flyer says it's going to be from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. All right. So listen, if you can't come for the full time, know that the doors are locked at 11 p.m. So if you at 11:05, you can't get out. You're gonna be in that prayer shut in, and everyone needs to be there because we're gonna rest in God's presence. And so give some focused attention to God's presence. Invite that presence in together overnight, extended amount of time. You see it December 2nd, 2022, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Don't forget, is at the new location, Unity of Farmington Hills. You see the address. All right, so you'll see the announcement again, but come on and let's rest in God's presence together. All right, we have Reverend Nicole Miller with the First Miracles Sit and Study. Now, usually this is on the first Fridays, first Friday of every month, but since we're doing the shut-in on the first Friday, this month it will be on the second Friday, December 9th, 2022. And if you know Reverend Nicole Miller, she's always taking us to a higher level. She's always talking about the Course in Miracles, and not just talking about it, but living it, and ushering us into living it too. So join us on December 9th for that. In January, we will return to First Fridays. First Fridays there. All right. All right. Plug into the power of prayer. If you need prayer support, anytime you need prayer support, we got some prayer angels. We got some prayer people at TLC who know how to hold space for you, who know how to pray, who know how to call up that energy together in prayer that you might need. So December 5th through December 9th, come on, plug into the power of prayer. Again, you see the conference call number and you see the Zoom information. All right, and this month it's time to go deeper, and you see the lineup for this month. Reverend Shahira, Reverend Nicole Miller was last week. I'll bring the message today, and next week we have my brother, a deep brother, Reverend Royce Thomason. That brother is deep. He is just deep. So join us for that. Join us for that next week with Reverend Royce Thomason. So let's talk a little bit about the message. It is the month of renunciation, fam, and letting go. It is the month of letting go, and I have to tell you, be honest, fam. At this very moment, my body And I know many of you, maybe you can hear it through my nasal passages and through my throat. My body is helping me to release something right now. You know what I mean? And so I was going to say, hey, I'm fighting a cold, but I'm not fighting anything. I'm releasing it. I'm releasing. And I have to tell you, when I was preparing for this message, as I'm preparing for this message, um, I felt my body and I felt my chest and I felt my cough. I felt myself releasing, and I was releasing more because I think my body was trying to tell me to go to a higher consciousness, to go higher. And so as I went higher this morning, I even found myself releasing more. That's a true story, fam. I'm not saying that for effect. I'm not saying that to enhance this message. This morning, I found myself releasing even more. I think because I was just going to a higher level. Um, so listen, a release is not just for people who have dis-ease. Release is for everybody. So as we approach the holiday season, let us slow down a bit. Let us slow down a bit, um, and so we can find rest. So we can find rest from our labor. That's what the holiday season is about. People are starting to slow down, and we need to learn a lesson from that. So let's get into this message, fam. I don't want to keep you very long. I really do hope this message brings some peace and clarity to someone this morning. I know it did for me as I was creating it. And of course, the title of the message is God Privilege. And I want to talk about, God. I want to talk about privilege for a minute. We hear that word privilege all the time, and privilege. This that word is used so much, especially in this era of being woke. Right? We hear privilege. We hear about white privilege. We hear about gender privilege. We hear about beauty privilege. We hear about age privilege. We hear about religious privilege. We hear about socioeconomic privilege. We hear about heterosexual privilege. We hear about able bodied privilege. I could go on and on and on, fam, but we hear about privilege all the time. And you know what, fam? By next week, by next week, we'll have 10 more. There'll be 10 more privileges because I think as identities increase, so do these perceived privileges. We have, identities are increasing about how people identify themselves, and that's all good. People should be who they are. But I think as identities increase, also these privileges increase with it. And I also often believe, fam, I often believe that if we truly embrace our God identity, if we truly embrace our God identity, we find no need to create alternative identities. We find no need to do that because it's all about God, because the God identity is inclusive. It includes all those things that you are, all of what you are in the God identity. And so we're going to talk today a little bit about that God identity and the privilege of identifying yourself as God, as God. And we talked about this era of being woke, but as Solomon said in Ecclesiastes, in the book of Ecclesiastes, there's really nothing new under the sun. When you talk about what we see now, I mean, men and women have been calling things out for centuries. We just have social media to really amplify it. When you think about people who were calling things out, Malcolm X was calling things out, Martin Luther King was calling things out. Sojourner Truth was calling things out. Fannie Lou Hamer was calling things out. So this call out thing is nothing new. We just put new words to it, and social media certainly amplifies that a lot. And so it is often a measure of showing your wokeness of how you can call things out or call people out or call privilege out. And we know, fam, some things need to be called out. Let's be clear. Some things need to be called out. Some things need to be called exactly what they are. But we see that so much. And so with so much information coming out daily, so much information is coming out daily. And when I talk about God identity and God privilege and resting to God, I think we have to guard our energy too, fam. We have to be careful to guard our energy, to not spend all of our time calling people out or watching others call people out. It's easy to get addicted to Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or other platforms. Because I ain't mad at people who doing it, but it's easy for us to get addicted to it, to just watch that, calling people out and calling things out. And for me, as I find myself releasing, as I find myself renunciating, I also know that I'm not going to spend all my days calling people out, because with the rate of information that's coming out now, you'll have no shortage of things to call out. Information is coming out all the time. And um, you know what? Nothing really surprises me anymore, fam. And I'll tell you why, nothing should surprise you anymore either. You know, you hear with information coming out, you hear more and more stories of atrocities. You hear more and more stories of uh, um, things that were done to people of color and to black people, to, you know, whether it be experiments that were done on black men or black people, whether it comes to redlining, housing, all those things are, this information is coming out at a fast rate, fam. It is coming out at a fast rate. And I know that if I get really locked into really searching for information or watching this information all the time, I'm really not going to come to another conclusion, fam. I'm really not going to come to another conclusion. You know why? Because when you have a place, when you have a world, or when you have a country, or when you have ways of being that were founded on lower vibrations, then you're going to have all these things. You're going to have all these things. And so I would not want you to keep traumatizing and re-traumatizing yourself by keep looking and searching for the information, because it all is doing is re-traumatizing, because we know it's there. I'm not saying we don't use that for information, we don't use that to move forward. I'm saying we don't get ourselves locked in to just being mesmerized by the information and watching that, because that is just a never ending engagement if you do that. And so I want us all to protect our energy. I want us to find some rest as well. And so I caution us to not lose ourselves in the antics of those who want to maintain, right, a privileged status. Don't lose ourselves, because if we lose ourselves in all that, if we lose ourselves in stories about the privilege, if we lose ourselves in stories about the atrocities, I think we're in we might be in danger of losing sight of our spiritual privilege, our God privilege. If you get locked into that so much, we can lose sight of that we're spiritual beings. We're not living a human existence. We are spiritual beings. We're not living a social existence. We live in a spiritual existence, and we're spiritual beings. So let's be careful, not to be addicted to that, not to let all the information just fill us up, because actually it can really lower our vibration. It can really lower your vibration. So we got to remember that we're not merely living a human and social existence. We are living a spiritual one. And if we continue to just be on that plane, fam, we will continue to major in the minor stuff. I say that again, we'll continue to major in the minor stuff. I want to major in God stuff. That's my major. I don't want us to major in the minor stuff. I don't want us to continue to put what matters most at the mercy of what matters least. I want you to embrace God, your God self, your God identity. Because if we continue to grapple, see, here's the thing. Everything that's going on, everything that we see, right, is the plane of effect. You know, there's cause and effect. It is the plane of effect. And we need to live at the plane of causation, of cause. But we continue to grapple on the plane of effect instead of creating on the plane of causation. So we continue to be on the plane of effect. It never really changes anything, fam. As I told you, people have been doing the call out thing for centuries. And I want you to ask yourself, I want you to think about this. Has it really changed anything? That you still see atrocity, you still see these things, you still see, because we're living on the horizontal instead of vertical that we talked about. We're majoring in the minor things. We're trying to do the same thing better, but we have to live on a different plane. Living on the plane of effect never really changes anything. You know what? We will never get justice from people who operate solely on the level of effect. Those of us who want justice, fairness, people who live on the, I wanted you to think about this. Whether you're talking about people, whether you're talking about nations, whether you're talking about countries, groups of people, whatever, people who live on the plane of effect rarely take accountability because they're living on the plane of effect. They can't take accountability because they're living on the plane of effect. And then what happens too is we run the risk of seeing ourselves as victims. We run the risk of seeing ourselves as victims when we live on this plane of effect, because on the plane of effect, we do expect justice. We have to ask ourselves, does justice come on that plane, or does justice come on a higher plane, on a God plane, God's justice? If we live, you think about that ex, you think about that former friend, you think about that former boss who you want to take accountability, or you like to hear an apology from. You think about the one who harmed you the most. You even think about this nation and what we expect from them. People who exist on that plane may never apologize to you because they don't even see themselves sometimes as doing anything wrong. When you live on that plane, that's lower consciousness. You don't even see yourself as doing anything. You don't even see yourself. You don't even have the ability to take accountability and rise to a level, another level, because you are hell bent on living on the plane of effect. And fam, I don't want us to live there with them. I don't want us to live there with them. I want to show you a quote that is credited to Shirley MacLaine, and if you can bring that up, Janice, because I think it says a lot. Shirley MacLaine says, "We are not victims of the world we see. We are victims of the way we see the world. We are not victims of the world we see. We are victims of the way we see the world." So what I'm suggesting is go to a higher level. When you change the way you look, when you change how you look, you change the thing you look at changes. We have to see it different. We have to rise to a higher level. Our peace is going to be found on the God plane, on the cause plane, not the plane of effect. That's where our peace is going to be found. We are not victims of the world we see. Reverend Nicole Miller can tell you that. She does the Course in Miracles and does the sip and study. And that's the Course in Miracles right there. We are not victims of the world we see. And so in order to rise from victimhood, fam, we have to rise to another level. So really, it's not for us to seek justice from man on this plane, but rather rise to a higher level of consciousness. And then we call others to do the same. Because God's justice can only operate when we operate on the plane of God consciousness. That's what it means when where it says vengeance belongs to God. That's what it means. You don't turn other to or resist not evil. That when you operate, that God will take care of that. That you don't have to be on a plane fighting with anybody, convincing anybody, converting anybody. You don't have to exist there because that is too exhausting. Fair. I know for me that in the last week that I slipped a little bit. I know I slipped because my thoughts took me to this place and it showed up in my body. So I'm coughing up stuff while my body is releasing that. But as I move to this higher plane, I am releasing that because everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual, fam. Everything is spiritual. So here's the thing. Those who choose to hold on to and we're talking about privilege, right? Those who choose to hold on to earthly privilege, even those that may have harmed you, caused you harm, even those who perpetrated historical atrocities, those people, here's the thing, those are the ones being held hostage, not you. Because when you're being held hostage when you have hate, when you have envy, you're being held hostage by your own privilege. You're held hostage by your own hate. hostage by your own envy, hostage by your own insecurities, that you can't reach the level of God consciousness because you're allowing yourself to be held hostage by all those things. So the truth is, fam, that I'm not going to spend my time, trying to convince and trying to force anybody anything, because one thing I know to be true, that you can colonize symbols, you can try to colonize people, you can try to colonize countries, you can try to colonize lands and systems, but you can't colonize God. You cannot colonize God, because God is the truth. Because in fact, fam, a colonized God is not a God at all. A colonized God is a false God. It's not a God at all. And so we need to rise up, fam. We need to rise up to a higher level. And the only way we can do that is by going deep. And so while appearances may, and we said earlier in the prayer, not be fooled by appearances, because appearances, while they may seem like others are prospering, they're really the ones suffering. When you're held hostage by your own hate, you are the ones suffering. And what I'm saying, fam, is don't suffer with them. Don't suffer with them. And this is why we can't be deceived by appearances, fam. This is why we have to embrace God privilege, because, on the human plane, on the horizontal plane, we can't let someone else's perceived privilege convince us that we're underprivileged. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Or that you're destined to suffer on this plane because you see yourself as unprivileged or underprivileged because of others' perceived privilege. Mm-mm. That's not the plane you want to live. You want to live in or live on. No one can inherit the true kingdom of God, right? No one can inherit the true kingdom of God until they surrender, until they really surrender all their man-made identities and all these privileges that I named, all the privilege that will come, until you really are ready to surrender and give that up. You ain't got nothing coming. Certainly not the kingdom of the Most High, unless you want to give that up. I want you to consider for a moment the example of Paul in Philippians 3, if you will, and he talks about it. And I don't know that we've ever read it from this angle or from this lens, but I certainly think our country, our world, for that matter, can take a lesson from this. Janice, we can leave that. Thank you for bringing it up. Let's leave that up. I'm going to tell you a little bit something about this while you see this scripture, Philippians 3:7. But what things were gained to me, these I have counted loss for Christ. But what things were gained to me, these I have counted loss for Christ. Now I'm going to read something from the Message Bible in Philippians. I love the Message Bible because Paul says this, especially when he's talking about the real believers, the ones who want to live on this plane, as opposed to those who want to live in their perceived privilege. So I want to read this. And he's talking about this, and somewhere in there he says, he's talking about where we're living, on the plane we're living now. We couldn't carry this off by our own efforts. This is Paul now, and we know it. Even though we can list what many might think are impressive credentials. Talking about privileges now. And now Paul is going to begin to talk about his own privileges, his own credentials. He says, you know my pedigree. A legitimate birth, privileged. Circumcised on the 8th day, privileged. An Israelite from the elite tribe of Benjamin, privileged. A strict and devout adherent to God's law, privileged. A fiery defender of the purity of my religion, even to the point of persecuting the church. This is who Paul was, privileged. A meticulous observer of everything set down in God's law book. That's who Paul was. And he goes on to say, the very credentials these people are waving around as something special, I'm tearing up and throwing out with the trash, along with everything else I used to take credit for. And why? because of Christ. Yes, all the things I once thought were so important are gone from my life compared to the high privilege of knowing Christ, Yeshua, as my master firsthand. Everything I once thought I had going for me is insignificant. He calls it dog dung. Now, if I wasn't in church, I'll tell you what dung is, dog dung, D-U-N-G. He calls it that, insignificant. He says, I've dumped it all in the trash so that I could embrace Christ and be embraced by him. I didn't want some petty, inferior brand of righteousness that comes from keeping a list of rules when I could get the robust kind that comes from trusting Christ, from trusting God's righteousness. Thank you, Janice, for putting that up. See, fam, you got to let it go. Paul gives us the example of letting it go. That should be an example for all of us who say we want to be in God, who want to live. You got to give that up for the sake of Christ, for the sake of love, for the sake of grace, for the sake of harmony. Give all of that up. Let it go. Let it go, fam. Let it go. And let's talk about how to stay there, fam. Because we endeavor to stay there. We know sometimes that we might have a misstep, a slip, but our intention is to stay in this consciousness of God privilege. And we can't let ourselves be tempted by false realities or fleeting comforts, as I call them. False realities or fleeting comforts can take you out of that space that you need to be in, that plane, because we're tempted by those things. And I want you to think about Matthew 4, 1 through 11. You know the story, and Janice, I'll pull the picture up in a minute. And this is the story where Jesus was tempted by the devil, quote unquote, the devil. When I think about the devil, do you ever realize, fam, that the devil is like the word lived spelled backwards? it's so crazy. And the word evil is live spelled backwards. It is amazing. That's just a little sidebar, fam, because I think when you're living on the lower plane, that you're living backwards. That you are living backwards, man. You totally living backwards. So, take that little nugget right there. But Matthew 4 says Jesus was taken into the wild. You know the story. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the devil, the one who lived backwards, right, tried to tempt him 3 times. And the first time he and remember now, Jesus had fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and that left him in a state of hunger. So that's when a man thought he could take advantage of that and says, since you are God's son, I want you to turn these stones into loaves of bread so you can eat. And we know what Jesus says. He says it takes more than bread to stay alive. It takes a steady stream of words from God's mouth, not bread, not the bread you're trying to give me, right? The second test, what was the devil set him on top of a temple and told him to jump. If you God's sons, just jump. Since God has placed you in the care of the angels, they'll catch you and you won't so much as even stub your toe on a stone. Why don't you just jump? And Yeshua countered by saying, don't you dare test the Lord your God. Don't try to tempt me. Don't try to test me. And we know the third test, the devil took him to the peak of a huge mountain and he gestured and showed him all the expansive kingdoms, pointed out the earth's kingdoms and how glorious they were. And they said, look, all these can be yours. And Janice, let's bring up that little picture. He said, all those can be yours if you go down on your knees and worship me. And Jesus refused. And he said, beat it, Satan. Worship the Lord. You worship your Lord. I'll worship the Lord my God, and I only serve him with absolute single-heartedness. And we see that, as the story goes, the devil left and the angels took care of Yeshua. But you see this picture, fam, this is kind of a picture depicting that. I tried my best to find a picture of a black Yeshua with dreadlocks. I was looking all over the internet. This is the best one I found. So that's a black Yeshua with dreadlocks, if you will. And so, you can see, um, let's look at the picture for a minute. It's like the enemy is saying, "I'll give you all the privileges you want. Look down here. I will give you all the privileges you want. All this can be yours. If you embrace your privileges, kneel down and worship me, I'll give you all that you want." And then you can see what Yeshua is doing. He's pointing up, and if I was to translate into my own version of the Bible, I would say Jesus was not just saying beat it, Satan. He was saying, boy, bye. I got ascension intention. You see him pointing up? I heard you, Reverend Voice, when you gave me a shout out to that message I gave some years ago. Ascension, attention, ascension, intention. Jesus, Yeshua, is saying, I have ascension intention, that I can't be tempted by all the privilege and all the stuff you're trying to give me. All the stuff you're trying to give me. So he knew his mission. And so as the story goes, when all this happened, fam, Yeshua was in the wilderness, right? When he got tempted, and he was hungry, as I said, because he hadn't eaten. So what does that mean for us, fam? I'll tell you what it means for us in our existence right now. Beware of the wilderness and stay fed, family. Beware of the wilderness and stay fed, because you can be tempted when you're hungry. You can be tempted when you have desire for something else other than God consciousness. First of all, the world will try to put you in the wilderness. The world will try to put you in the wilderness. And when you're in the wilderness, fam, you're on the plane of effect. You're not on the God plane. You're not on the higher conscious. You're on the plane of effect. And so we know Yeshua conquered that. That's the message of Yeshua. He conquered that plane. And when you're on that plane, when you're in the wilderness, fam, we've been there before. Let's be transparent and tell the truth. We've all been in the wilderness. It's easy. It's easy to be swayed. It's easy to be tempted to descend into fleshly pursuits. It's easy. It's easy to be tempted by conformity. It's easy to be tempted by ideas of separation. You're in the wilderness when you live in unforgiveness. If you haven't forgiven, if you live in unforgiveness, you are still in the wilderness. You're in the wilderness when you're tempted to hate or when you're tempted to judge. And so all these things happen in the wilderness, and you can be tempted. That is what the story tells us. You can be tempted to worship something false. See, this is why we have to stay fed with God's truth. The story tells us that you hadn't eaten for 40 days, and it's a message for us to stay fed with God's truth. Because when you stay fed with God's truth, you'll never go hungry again, fam. You'll never go hungry again. And when you are full, when your appetite is satisfied with God's truth, you won't be satisfied with the scraps that the world gives. No matter how good it looks, no matter how good it tastes, or no matter how much it temporarily satisfies you, nothing will satisfy you until you stay satisfied with God's truth. Because when you're hungry, fam, any old morsel might look good. This is why we ask the Most High to free us from our attachment to desires. If someone wants a mate, if someone desires a mate, and they too attached to that, any old body might come through and look good for you. You might accept anything. You might lower your standard. You might do anything because you're attached to that desire. So we have to stay fed. So Yeshua was showing us how to conquer the level of effect so you can ascend to the level of causation. And when you ascend to the level of causation, then that's when you can create. Then we're not responding or reacting to the world, we're creating it. You can create on the level of causation. There is nothing but God. There is nothing but God. There is nothing but God. And so I want us to remember, fam, as we, sit around this Thanksgiving table. Many of us have seen family that we haven't seen. Many of us will have some interesting conversations, I'm sure, when family comes over with people. And some of those conversations might be kind of tough. I know, but rather than talk about divisions and polarities, events of the current day, rest in the privilege of God's truth, family. I think love is the new revolution. Well, it's always been the revolution.
Mhm.
Love and family. Not just your blood family, but those who reside with you on that plane. That's your family. That's the revolution, fam. Not to fight on the plane of effect. So trust and rest in the privilege of God, of God's love, of God's grace, God's omnipotence, God's omnipresent. Rest in that. God's omniscience. Right? Rest in that. Find rest in your God purpose. And let's stop fighting, fam. And then we can bring others, then we can call in others, to do the same. You all remember back in the 90s, there was used to be this commercial, from American Express, and I always used to say, membership has its privileges. Membership has its privileges. And I'll tell you what, it had its privileges for a while, but for me, when I foreclosed on my house years ago, they took them privileges away. American Express took them privileges away. But I ain't talking about American Express. I'm talking about different privileges. See, when you're a member of a family I'm talking about, then you have privileges. You have privileges, and no one can revoke that privilege but you. American Express can't revoke it. Man can't revoke it. No one can revoke that membership when you decide to reside on that plane. And only you can revoke it. So let's watch ourselves during this month of renunciation. Let's let go of the stuff we let bother us so much. Let's let go of the stuff we become emotional about so much. Let's rest in God's truth, because I'm talking about membership in the kingdom of the most high creator. That's the membership I want. That's the only membership I want. Because in that kingdom, I have the privilege to love and be loved, the privilege of forgiveness. I have the privilege of grace and to be graced. I have the privilege to rise above all this, to rise above the horizontal plane, right? And live on the vertical plane and keep ascending. I have the privilege, like Jesus said, who did not consider it robbery to declare his equality with God. We have the privilege to be God with small g's. That's what the word says, man. That is a privilege. And that's the privilege to create your own reality. That you can be the master of your fate and the captain of your soul, that God gives you that authority when you're on that plane. So we have to let go, fam. We have to let go. And we have to go deep in order to do it. Charles Fillmore once said, it is just as necessary that one should learn to let go of thoughts, conditions, and substances in consciousness, body, and affairs when they have served their purpose and you no longer need them, as it is that one should lay hold of new ideas and new substances to meet one's daily requirements. So they're just as important. It's just important to let those things go. That is to embrace new ideas. In fact, you can't even embrace new ideas. You can't even make room for new ideas. You can't make room for newness until you let some things go. Until you let some things go. So in this month, let's go deeper, fam. Let's go deeper. And only you can do that. Let's let go. And let's remember this. Let's remember this. Janice, if you can bring up the last slide, because in the end, I think this is what we have to remember. Um, and this is from Buddha. That in the end, only three things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. Let me affirm that again, fam. In the end, only three things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. Fam, let's rise up to a higher level. the level of effect is not for us, fam. That is not meant for us. It's not meant for us to live there. It only causes you pain and trauma and angst. But let's rise above, live on God's plane, and then create and begin to use God's gift to create. Amen, fam?
Mm-hmm.
I say, and so it is. And so it is. Let go, fam. And speaking of gifts, fam, let's come to this time of thinking about giving and coming up to Thanksgiving. I want you to think about, certainly I think about what I have gotten from this teaching, what I have gotten from TLC, and how these teachings have changed my life. And, give, fam. There's many ways to give. Many ways to give. You've got Givelify, you've got CashApp, and you see it on the screen, all these different ways to give. Give to the ministry so we can continue giving to you. Give to the ministry so we can continue giving to the world. Give to the ministry so we can keep ascending and be a model for others to ascend. Lord knows our world needs it. Lord knows our country needs it. So give. And know this, fam, that $1 given with a grateful heart, $1 given with a grateful heart is worth more than 100 given from one who gives begrudgingly. From one who wants to hold on to it. $1, fam, from a grateful heart is worth more than $100 from someone who gives begrudgingly. So give whatever you can, fam, and know that what you give will be shaken up and returned to you. I love you, TLC. I love you. And I appreciate the privilege of growing and ascending with you. I love you. I appreciate you. I honor you. I say, go your way, rejoice in this holiday season. As our brother Horace used to say, who recently had a birthday, happy heavenly birthday to our brother Horace. Go your way, rejoice and fam in this truth. I hope someone has let go of something during this message. I hope someone has found a little bit more peace. I hope someone has had more clarity. And I hope we've made the decision and continue making the decision to live in our God privilege, to rise up and not be bogged down by those things below. Amen. I say, so it is. Thank you, family. Love you.